Live, weekdays from 8 to 9 a.m. with replays later. This is the Daily Delaware County Today with Steve Lindell.
As we now begin and continue a series of interviews called Meet the Candidates, there are many that are, they're willing, they're able, and the willing is the very important part to serve you. But you have to do your job, folks, and that's get out and vote. So the whole point of Meet the Candidates is for you to know who's running for what. And I will bring up to the dais right now with one more microphone push. There's lots of buttons here. As we go into what we call the two-shot on the screen, I would like for you to introduce yourself to our audience, if you don't mind starting there.
Yes, my name is Stephen Avit.
And you are running for?
U.S. Congress.
You're one of 7 on the Democratic side that is trying to have that nomination in the primary election. I guess I would start with this. Why choose Mr. Avit over the other candidates on the Democratic ticket this time?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because we kind of joke up on stage. We've been through so many of these candidate forums together that we are really just kind of 7 different shades of blue. So it really is just picking who do you think will best represent you. And at the end of the day, I don't have any political experience. I'm just frustrated. I'm a small business owner. I've got experience doing things like that. So at the end of the day, I just really want to go to Washington and get things working again. It feels like it's broken.
Sometimes it's the darndest things that come from the minds of people that are outside of that realm, I think, and that can be a very useful thing. Somebody that is what they call a career politician, they're certainly, and we are certainly thankful those are willing to serve in those capacities as well. But I think there are some certain pluses in those regards. You said a small business person. What is your business?
Yeah, so my degree is chiropractic. So I've owned chiropractic clinics in the past, and I've also served in a role more with marketing and sales consulting for a handful of chiropractic companies that sell to other chiropractors. So I've got a little background both in healthcare, direct patient care, but then also kind of solving business problems and that end of things. So that's kind of really what I want to bring to Washington, is that common sense approach to let's just get something done for a change.
We're on WMUN right now in Studio B, Meet the Candidate segment here with Stephen or Steve Avit. I was only called Stephen when my mom, who is listening right now, was mad at me. Did you have any sort of name change in your family lineage that was similar to that by chance?
Yeah, pretty much the same situation. Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned the fact that this is would be a new job for you. The federal government is obviously quite a different sort of a task and an undertaking. What are your ideas if you do receive the nod ultimately that you are hoping for? What will you do as serving in this capacity?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd like to see is just Congress return to functioning again. And I think we do have a real opportunity this upcoming session. We've got a number of people in Congress retiring, so there's going to be a lot of turnover this time. So with such a large freshman class, what I would like to actually see is a group of folks get together and say, let's pass some easy stuff. Let's look at those 80-20 issues where most of the country agrees. Let's pass some easy things. Let's learn how to work together across the aisle again. And then maybe we can tackle something bigger like taxes, which would be the thing I'm most passionate about, because I feel like that tax code is completely upside down, where billionaires get a free ride and the middle class, we're the ones having to really kind of do the heavy lifting.
I watched a little bit of your from your website, some of the intro stuff on Steve Avit. And one of the things you said quite clearly was affordability being an issue. Talk to that subject, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, life has just gotten too expensive, and I'm not going to lie here and just say I can make grocery prices lower. That's not realistic. But what are things we can do to make life more affordable? And that's really why I look at the tax code. That's an easy one. Look at something like student loans. I think if you get a student loan, you should have to pay back what you borrowed, but maybe not the interest. Why should the government be profiting off of your education? Just kind of pay back what you borrowed. They'll make their money later off your taxes.
Steve Avit is our guest. Meet the candidates. He is one of the 7 trying to have the Democratic nomination for the 5th Congressional District. May 5 is the primary. Early voting is on now. Aside from affordability, since we just touched on that, what is maybe the next most heard topic that you're hearing about in your work with the campaign?
Sure. The next one, it's really tied into affordability, but it's going to be healthcare. And that's just a big one. I mean, people are getting crushed by the cost of their health, by the health insurance plans out there. And for me as a healthcare provider, that one is personal. One of the reasons I did get into this was I had a patient come into me just after 4th of July weekend. She had hurt her lower back. She wasn't there because she couldn't play with her kids. She wasn't there because she couldn't enjoy her life, do things with her husband. She was there because she could not afford to miss work. And she came in just really wanting to get the least amount of care possible, just so she could go back to work and not miss a paycheck. And that's really when told me there was something really broken with this whole system.
Steve Avit is a candidate for the 5th Congressional District. Meet the candidates segments here on WMUN's Delaware County Today. One of the other issues that I'm curious, for the sake of our listeners, to know where you stand on, topic and policy-wise, I guess. Over the last 4 or 5 years, the national crime rate has steadily gone down. What policies do you believe might help in that particular trend?
Honestly, really anything we can do to help affordability, I think will help the overall crime rate. I think we can all agree that when the country is doing well, typically crime is down.
One of the other subjects that we've been talking about a lot here in Indiana, especially data centers, the effects that they can and do have with respect to a whole lot of different pieces and parts and functions. And if you are in the federal government, you may have some say as to whether or not those sorts of things move forward or not. What is your position on that?
Absolutely. I do feel like the data centers need to be a bit more responsible in how they're being rolled out. I'm concerned about things like electricity bills on regular residents getting jacked up, obviously the water supply, environmental impact. So I think we need to first put it on those companies to make sure they are covering the cost of all of those things before it can impact everyday people.
On a federal level, how will you encourage more growth in the job market? Is there things in your mind that you could do at the federal level to help bring even more jobs into this district that you would be serving and the state of Indiana?
Yep, I think just really returning the tax rates back to what they used to be, that tends to drive more business. If you have a choice of either putting more money into your business or sending it to the federal government, you tend to reinvest that money back into your business and grow jobs. And that's really how this country grew in the 1950s.
A lot of things happen in our world all the time, but a lot of things are happening right now. There's a war in Ukraine. There's the Gaza ceasefire that's shaky. There's the momentary ceasefire in Iran. Who knows what's going on there? Every 5 minutes it seems to change. As a representative, how do you see your role in helping to manage or steer how the United States is dealing with these situations?
Yeah, and sadly you've left off some other potential ones like, Greenland and Cuba and gosh knows where else we're thinking about going nation building at this point in time. And my viewpoint is that right now we have so many problems in this country. We really need to sit back and focus on those rather than going off and trying to pick fights across the world. We don't need to be out there doing nation building. And I think we've also done a lot over the last year or so to destroy our reputation within the world. And so I'd like to see Congress actually do its job, rein in a president that's maybe a little bit out of control, and try to reestablish some sense of authority in the world again.
Okay. Steve Avit is our guest here for the Meet the Candidates segment on WMUN. For the final moment or two that we have left in our segment with you, I'll give the floor to you. What kinds of things haven't we talked about, I haven't asked about, that you would like people to know about you and why you're advocating for them out there to vote for you on May 5?
Yeah, at the end of the day, whatever situation I found myself in, I've usually been able to go in and make friends with people. Even on the campaign trail, I've become friends with most of the other candidates. So I'm really optimistic about being able to go to Washington, get in there, reach across the aisle, make some friends, and really just try to get some stuff done. And don't get me wrong, when the time comes to fight those friends, I'm ready to do that as well. But we've got to start somewhere. So.
Well, let me ask you this as a last question.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not successful, do you see yourself trying again? In other words, has the process of campaigning and seeking the support to win the primary and ultimately win the general election for this particular seat, has it been what you expected, and would you try again if you need to do that?
That's a great question. It has not been what I've expected. Whether I would do it again or not, I'm not sure at this point in time,
Fair.
but it has been a great, fun experience. I have enjoyed every second of it. So, and to that end, if I'm not successful, then I'd be more focused on just trying to help whoever is successful in winning the primary, so that hopefully it's not even an issue next time around.
Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for being willing to do this with us this morning. And more importantly, thank you for your willingness to serve, because I believe that is something that not everybody has. Not everybody has that gumption. Not everybody necessarily wants to put themselves out like that. So thank you for doing that and for your willingness. We very much appreciate you for doing so.
Great. Well, thank you for saying so, and thank you for having me on here today.
Absolutely. Steve Avit is the candidate for the Democratic nomination for the primary May 5th for the 5th Congressional District. As our Meet the Candidates segments will continue in the